can we just take a moment to appreciate martial arts movies for what they are right now? Because back then, growing up in the 2000s, I literally have no idea that these films existed. Like before YouTube, um, I was watching martial arts movies on the network, not having DVDs of it. But I remember like Double Impact. I remember watching the Street Fighter movie with John Claude Van Damme in it. Those were the 2000s that I grew up in before I even started YouTube in the first place. But I would be lying if I told you that my first Bruce Lee movie as a teenager, I was watching the second film, coming home every day, watching this movie, eating my sloppy joes and some homemade fries. You know, just living my childhood. You know what I'm saying? While watching the Spanish version of the this movie, and a little funny, like if you grew up in the projects, and if you're from DC, they used to sell like the 99 cent store. I'm sorry, 99 cent store. They used to always sell like bootleg martial arts versions of the movies, the ones with Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, and Bruce exploitations and stuff. Like I still have it in my room to this day, looking back at it now. But thankfully, we got YouTube and Netflix and Tubi, where you can watch all of the classic films from the 70s and early 80s, and maybe somewhat in the 90s. But shout out to Cinema Scar, aka Angry Video Game Nerd, because he's the one that is in charge of this. So let's go ahead and hop into this.
I love martial arts films. It's one of
Same.
my favorite genres, and it's been far too long since I've made some kind of martial art video on Cinemassacre. When it
Yeah.
comes to reviewing these movies, the question is, which ones? The genre is such a rich treasure trove, it's opening a can of worms, or a can of whoop ass.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the topic arises, I get so
Oh
excited,
yeah.
I can't even pick.
In the line of duty four, in the line of duty four with Donnie Yen in it, I remember. I think it was 2013 or 2012 when I was watching the movie. I'm like, damn, like the stunts in that movie was so good. I just kept watching it and watching it, and the fact that it came out in 1989, I was intrigued of what I was about to watch. And Donnie Yen just became my second favorite martial arts movies, well, martial artist of all time. It's just the way he fights and the way he does his thing, pure classic.
One area to focus on. So I decided, hey, I'll just talk about the genre as a whole with a lean on the classics of the 70s, 80s, and a little 90s. Think of it as a sampling, an introduction to martial arts films for those who might not be that familiar, and for those who are already big fans, may this help reignite the spark, share the love, and double down on all the things we find appealing about it. But first, a word from this video sponsor.
Get
Now listen, have you ever wanted a 6-inch tall vert film? It's a very broad category. It encompasses any action film that mainly uses hand-to-hand combat. I would say my favorites are the ones that use kung fu, but since there's
oh
so
yeah.
many styles of fighting and from all around the world, just saying martial arts is a good catch-all term. I especially like the word art because I think of these movies very much as a physical art of the body, much like dance.
Yeah, that is kind of true though.
There's a certain type of visual language in these films that is universally appealing. Some would say these are just dumb action movies that are all about fighting and the story and dialogue takes a back seat. Now that may often be true, but the best of them show off an elegant and highly skilled expression of the body, which is just
Right.
as important as dialogue and is a big part of the communication and the
I got
drama
my rubber
between
band.
the performers.
Try to put me in a pony so I can eat the sandwich.
The build-up to the fight is one of the most classic tropes.
Oh,
where
yeah.
Fighters stare at each other to size each other up. Let me see what you got. Oh, it's like that. Both are confident they're going to win, and as long as neither backs down, it becomes the point of no return. I'd say the trope originated in the classic westerns, especially the Sergio Leone ones with Clint Eastwood. They're
Oh yeah.
strategically edited together with wide shots and close ups. The faces speak everything. If you're gonna go for your gun, you better be sure, because I'm quicker than you.
I'll be too busy looking good.
Mm.
The westerns would go from the wide to the close up with a cut, but the martial arts films use zooms. The zooms are such a great cliche, and no matter how many times I see it, I can't get enough. Zoom, zoom, zoom! It's like the trigger when the
And you see that in Japan when it comes to like Super Sentai and Power Rangers, but I wish they do that nowadays because it's like every time I see a martial arts movie or an action flick, they don't even do that stuff anymore when it comes to zooming in and stuff. Like I remember back in the '90s when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers first came out, especially when they were fighting the putties and the monsters and whatnot. Like I know it's originally shot from Japan, but in America, when it comes to fighting putties and the cinematic style, they always like to zoom in when it comes to fighting them and all of that. They don't even do that no more in martial arts movies and TV shows. Not in Jean Claude Van Damme movies, Jackie Chan films, um, like you name it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just nowadays everything is so cinematic, which I can appreciate the drone, like the drone shots and everything, but I miss the way they used to film it in terms of like zooming in and whatnot. Those were the days of pure gold. You know what I'm talking about?
character is insulted or instigated in some way, that's when the zoom happens.
It was my fault.
Like it's on now. It's this type of visual language that distinguishes it from the more dialogue-driven types of films. It's purely cinematic. Then there's usually a little pause from the fight where they strike a cool pose. It can either be a taunt or a show-off, or even expressing an acknowledgement to the other, like touche, the exclamation that originated in fencing. These pauses are an important component to the overall fight. From a bodybuilding perspective, Arnold Schwarzenegger says in his book, Seven Tools for Life, that in bodybuilding, it's not just about making a pose, it's about how you transition from one pose to the next. Like, sure, the camera takes the picture when you're in that pose, but everybody sees you moving around before you get into the next pose. And what a great metaphor for life. It's not just the big moments, it's the moments in between. There's various weapons that these films popularize, such as nunchucks, swords, sais, and even a pole or staff. Basically, all the ones the Ninja Turtles used, but almost anything can be a weapon.
Yeah.
Like when Sammo Hung used tennis rackets in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, or when Jackie Chan used a ladder in First
Oh yeah,
Strike.
that too.
Sometimes it's all about how cumbersome and ridiculous can the weapon be, or it's about finding the most inefficient way to fight someone, like in Kung Fu versus Yoga, when they're doing all these crazy stretches. I mean, who does that in the middle of a fight? One of my favorite martial arts tropes is the breakaway props.
Oh yeah.
This became much
I think I've seen this clip 100 times on social media. I'm trying to figure out what is the name of this movie, and I know it was Cynthia Rock and Michelle Yeoh starring in this film. But that film became so iconic. It's famous all over like Hong Kong. Like back in the day when just like them doing like crazy action films, even though the plot is a bit sus sometimes, but the action is what sells it the most. That's what people care about in martial arts action films in Hong Kong because that's where they get their movies from. The 80s and the early 90s. They don't even do that no more nowadays. And I wish they'd gone back and do that because that's why you got YouTube popping up with these 80s and early 90s martial arts B movies. And they're just so fun to watch.
more prevalent in the 80s. It usually has to do with the setting for the fight. Like in a video game, you have different backgrounds. If the fight is in a warehouse, you bet your ass there's going to be a pile of boxes that gets knocked down. You know I love boxes. But there's nothing better than seeing furniture getting smashed, glass getting shattered, and walls being utterly demolished. This is the type of stuff I live for. The rest of the movie could be mediocre.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
always worth
said.
it, as long as there's one good hit that sends somebody flying slow motion
Overacting
through
like
the air
shit.
into a crashing spectacle. You know it's coming as soon as you see the wind-up, and when the anticipation's satisfied, you can't help but cheer. Ooh!
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that there's something therapeutic about seeing some bad guys get clobbered. It's no wonder that many actors have gotten seriously hurt making these films. They risk
Jackie
their
Chan,
lives
for
all
example,
the
but
sake of entertainment.
one thing about Jackie Chan is that he the type of OG that'll do anything to sacrifice his own body to make one stunt work from another. And you see it behind the scenes every ending of the film. Rumble in the Bronx, Project A, you name it. Jackie Chan is just the GOAT. And he's still doing martial arts movies in his 70s. And he's got one coming out with um um uh, Daniel with Ralph who played why can't I get it out? I don't know what. Yeah, so he has one Karate Kid movie coming out, the one with Daniel LaRusso in it, and this newcomer that is coming out this year. And yeah, Jackie Chan is not slowing down. He ain't slowing down no time soon.
One of the most common stunts is hanging from a moving vehicle. Take, for
Oh
example,
yeah,
Cynthia Khan in The Line of Duty 4,
my favorite
or
movie.
Jackie Chan in Police Story. The trope can
Oh
be
yeah,
dated
that
back
too.
to the silent era with all the Buster Keaton stunts, and later
That's
all
where
the
they got
Zorro
that
film
from.
serials of the late 30s. Spielberg revived it with Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I think the Hong Kong action films perfected it and made
Oh
it
yeah,
even
they made it
scarier.
look good
In
though.
Hollywood, this
If
sort
I
of
did some
thing was
stuff
more
like that, my life
regulated,
would have been over. I would have been
certain laws that
paralyzed.
didn't
I ain't gonna
exist
be able to
in
walk
Hong Kong.
again.
Another terrifying stunt you see very often in these films is a fall from a great
Oh
height
yeah.
and actually hitting the ground without any fall pads or cutaways. Take, for example,
I don't know
Yuan
how they're
Biao
back
in
now, bro. That is
Express,
beyond me.
also known as Shanghai Express. In one continuous shot, he jumps from a burning building, hits the ground, gets
How?
up, and continues acting. And
I don't know how they're able to do all of that. I would have had my legs broken, both my kneecaps broken in pieces, out of place, and my back would have been like that. Like, there's no way I'm gonna like jump 10 feet from the building if I'm doing a crazy stunt for a martial arts flick or a TV show. That would never ever be me. You can't pay me $2 million to do that. My life would have been over right there. Shoot, big ups to that person whoever did that, but nah, my life is more important.
in righting wrongs, he jumps from a plane.
What?
So no stranger to heights. I'll always remember in his book,
Yeah,
From Jackie Chan,
the GOAT
possibly
himself.
the best autobiography I've ever read, he describes his 60-foot drop from the clock tower in Project A. He says while the marketing says he has no fear, in truth, he was scared so much that he
I
bailed
bet.
out twice.
I bet.
The third time, he told his crew to leave him there, hanging alone, so he had no choice but to fall. Doesn't that give you goosebumps just thinking about it? Plus, he ended up doing the fall 3 times, as you can see in 3 angles.
Oh, God.
Sure, the awnings must have softened the fall somewhat, but that did not look like
What
a
is
good
this
day.
nigga on?
I don't know if anyone remembers, but one of my early YouTube videos that I made was top 10 Jackie
Oh,
Chan stunts. And at the time, it was the most
no.
views I had on any video, proving Jackie Chan's universal appeal.
Jackie Chan is like the real life because he's just jumping from one building from another, just taking so many falls just to make it look good. Either Johnny Bosch might have took inspiration from him or Tom Cruise. I understand that when you get older, You will never ever do no stuff like that no more, like you used to when you were young. Like, bro, it's time for you to hang it up because I don't want to see nobody who is in their 50s or 60s. If they can still go, then go for it. But for me, I don't want to see nobody get hurt because you know the medical bills about to be piling up really soon. No. The medical bills going to end up piling up real soon, like really, really soon. But the fact that Jackie Chan had to do that times, I don't know if he's begging God to take his life. I have no idea.
His legacy can be attributed to how he communicates visually by studying the masters like Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. Many of his stunts are sort of remakes of stunts that either Keaton or Lloyd already performed.
That's where he got that
Jackie
from.
also
I thought he
invented
did that by
playing his own.
himself.
Using facial expressions and body language, he made himself appealing as an international star, and combined with his charming nature, that's why he's been my all-time favorite actor. But you have to give credit to his whole team and everyone around him who gets all beaten up. In Police Story, he pulls out a gun to stop a moving bus. When the bus hits the brakes, the men smash through the window. Now, the stunt actors were supposed to land on the car and roll off, which would have absorbed more of the impact.
Oh.
However, the bus stopped short as did not hit Jackie, and the men hit the street. Ouch.
Oh my
To sum
God.
up, the physical dexterity and stamina and the uncompromised authentic dangers are one of the major things that makes this genre so exciting to me.
Lord have
Even when there's
mercy.
more fighting and less stunts, it's still very obvious that you're watching people with an almost inhuman type level of skill. Any actor can train for a few months, learn some martial arts moves, and make a kick-ass fight scene, but you can tell when you're watching the real deal, when it's true, lifelong, dedicated martial artists. Also, when you watch older martial arts movies, especially the ones from the Shaw Brothers studio in Hong Kong, there's a sense that you're getting something authentic. These movies have a closer connection and heritage when it comes to kung fu. Martial arts films come from all over the world, but in the 70s, the vast majority were from Hong Kong and Taiwan. And the Shaw Brothers were the biggest source.
Oh yeah.
I especially like
They
the
made
period
all them
piece films,
movies,
the
you
ones
know.
actually set in ancient China.
Hold on.
Because those feel closer to the roots. You get the sense that the wardrobe is faithful, the settings are authentic, and those are the real moves.
Many of these films even depict the Shaolin Temple and the origin of Kung Fu. So in a way, you're absorbing some of the culture and getting some historical context. There's a sense of wisdom and self-discipline that come from these films that harkens back to a more spiritual time.
Don't concentrate on the finger.
R.I.P. Bruce
or
Lee,
you
the
will
GOAT.
miss all that heavenly glory.
Do you sometimes think that these lessons in these movies can sometimes lead us to believe anything is real sometimes? I mean, the way Bruce Lee is teaching this young brother in a movie, Enter the Dragon, about never taking your eyes off your opponent. Don't think, feel, always bow your head while you're keeping your eye on your opponent. If anybody teach me like that, or try to hit me in my head like that, nah. It would have been lights out within 5 seconds. Then I wouldn't be learning a martial arts lesson. If anybody would have tilted their head and that to me, lights out. I understand this is all for entertainment and everything when it comes to martial arts movies or whatever, but if any martial arts master that I've known in DC would have started doing stuff like that to me, understand that there will be a lawsuit. I said lawsuit, I sound country. There will be a lawsuit, and I would have probably been arrested. Lord knows it's not going to work out for the better.
There's a certain set of beliefs, laws, and a code of conduct. There's always a scene where a teacher is giving advice.
The
way to control your breathing is to let your strength flow around your body.
It's no secret George Lucas referenced many of these tropes in Star Wars. I mean, who could forget Master Yoda and all his words of wisdom?
You must unlearn.
Yo, Master Yoda is my guy, bro.
Mr. Miyagi, Splinter,
Miyagi.
and even Mickey from the Rocky films call back to the archetype of the elderly mentor who passes on his knowledge to a younger generation.
Shoot, what about
It seems
Donar?
nowadays, old age gets a bad rep, but these films speak of a time when old age meant wisdom and experience. It's always some old guy, sometimes with a beard or maybe a wig. Sometimes he's kind of funny.
The
My favorite of
stereotypical
these
old guy.
actors is Ewan Soutine. I did my best to pronounce.
Except nowadays, they don't even dress like that no more. Like, all them wearing skinny jeans and style clothing these days, and you love to see that. But back then, they just look like grandpa and grandmas with oversized gown on and everything. Like, yeah. Respect to our grandmothers and grandfathers, though. I just wanted to throw that out there just to joke around. But yeah, you get the point.
That. He's also known as Old Dirty from the films Snake and Eagle's Shadow, Drunken Master,
Old
and Dance
Dirty.
the Drunk Mantis. These films were directed by his son, Yuen Wu Ping, who went on to direct countless films including Iron Monkey and choreographed The Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2.
Oh!
The teacher usually reserves his training.
I didn't know
for
that.
the select pupil who proves they want it badly enough.
Yes. Too old to begin the training.
It's almost like this is the first test. Or sometimes there's another reason he's hesitant. He has regret over a past student who went on to become the villain. In Five Deadly Venoms, the teacher explains how he
Oh, I
trained
love
a
that
group
movie.
became a dangerous clan.
What I taught them could be used wrongly for evil to hurt men.
The student will do whatever it takes to get the teacher to train them. One of the funniest scenes is Shaolin versus Lama, when the would-be student baits the teacher with chicken. But the teacher manages to grab the chicken and fight while eating it.
How about that chicken
He's
probably
supposed to
tastes
be
like
all
garbage?
wise and elegant, but he eats like a savage animal. So after the teacher plays hard to get and finally agrees to train the student, he gives the student hell. It goes beyond training and is more like a form of torture, as if this is the second part of the test, to see if the student can exceed his capacity for physical abuse. The training methods
that can't be
very
me.
creative
That cannot
through
be
their
me.
cruelty. In The Fearless Hyena, the student has to do a handstand with a hot bowl of tea over his
What the-
crotch. Some films are almost nothing but training scenes, such as the 36 Chamber Shaolin starring Gordon Liu.
I mean,
also
it
known as the
does
Master Killer.
get you
He
stronger.
got his turn to play the nasty teacher in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Oh yeah, he
The
played that
teacher
role
gives
very
very
well.
little acknowledgement for a job well done. No encouragement except maybe a casual head nod. For the most part, he just puts the hero to his absolute limits, and if he caves in and quits, it was never meant to be. The teacher likes to sit on the hero or take advantage of him in some way, perhaps to see if he can endure being humiliated and pissed off. Yoda kind of touches on this trope by making Luke carry him on his back.
Yes, Jedi strength flows from the Force.
But another funny example is in Full Contact 93, where the teacher...
Oh yeah, I was watching this movie a few weeks ago. It's very underrated. Go check it out, even though it's R-rated, but it's a good movie. And that black dude, he turned out to be a crook after all, because I thought that he was going to be like the one that, you know, teach him, show him different ways of fighting. But come to find out, that nigga used him to fight in tournaments to make money off of him the entire time. But their final fight scene was not only brutal, but that white dude got his lick back. That's one of the craziest ways to end a movie. Go check it out. Very underrated.
Teacher sits in a comfy chair and makes the student carry it around. Asshole teachers can be found everywhere, from the streets of LA to ancient China, and even to the swamps of Dagobah. But when it comes to training, there is no better trope than the montage.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good training montage. In the world of martial arts, it's a necessity, and it carried over to the John Avildsen films, Rocky and The Karate Kid. This is where the protagonist has to push himself to advance to the highest level of human strength and intellect. This is a trope that we've seen thousands of times, but it never gets old. I think the reason why is because it speaks to the viewer in a way that says the most ordinary person, through hard work and determination, could rise up and overcome the odds. After that, we get a final confrontation between hero and villain. Almost always, this is the best fight of the whole film. You could have a mediocre
it's
or
always
straight
been like that.
shitty movie, but if it ends with a good fight, it's worth it. Anytime you're in doubt, just skip to the end. The final fight is what it's all about.
Our new generation of simple human step cans are sleek, strong, and very efficient. And they include a very...
Just skip to the end. The final fight is what it's all about. One of the best final fights I'd recommend is Drunken Master 2,
Oh,
also known
yes.
as Legends of the Drunken Master,
Yes.
when it finally had a wide release in the United States. When I saw this in theaters in 2000, I was blown away, and then I
Same.
had to go watch every Jackie Chan movie I could find. What I like so much about Jackie Chan fights is that the villain totally overpowers him. Unlike the Bruce Lee films where he hardly ever gets hit, Jackie Chan gets his ass beat. That makes it so much more exciting. It seems he has no chance of winning, but then he adapts a new method or does something unorthodox to turn the fight around, such as getting piss-ass drunk.
Let me fix something. I don't.
One of the funniest things about the older martial arts movies, mainly from the late 70s and early 80s, is that they often end very abruptly. The movie just stops, sometimes immediately when the fight is over, and sometimes...
I've always hated that growing up because I feel like if they're doing stuff like that, I feel like you're going to give us a sequel or you're going to give us more. Like, I want to see more. I don't want them to just keep doing the freeze frame every time they end a movie or a TV show. The Power Rangers did that during the Saban era. They did, they did that a lot. And you notice it in these martial arts classic films from the 80s and 90s and even the late 70s. You see that most of the time. But I think 9 times out of 10, I just get so tired of seeing that, you know? Like, if you're gonna freeze frame it, you might as well just give us more.
Even on the final blow. You gotta love it. Another funny thing is how common it is for martial arts movies to have multiple titles, to the point where it can be extremely confusing. The classic example is The Big Boss being retitled Fists of Fury in the United States, but the next film happened to be called Fist of Fury, so they changed it to the Chinese Connection as a way of capitalizing on the success of the French Connection. These movies were shamelessly exploitive, made with a producer's mindset of how to cash in on whatever they thought the public wanted at the time. Titles changed by region, or maybe the TV version had a different title. Then there was VHS, DVD. Sometimes these movies got retitled every single time they were re-released. Royal Warriors, which came out in '86, was retitled In the Line of Duty, and Yes Madam, which came out in '85, a year before Royal Warriors, was retitled In the Line of Duty 2, which means the sequel came out before the first one. There's also an entirely different movie called Royal Warriors '88, which was also known as Hands of Death, Ninja Operation 7, and Secret of the Lost Empire. There's many examples of different films sharing the same title, such as Full Contact 92 Hong Kong, starring Chow Yun-fat, and Full Contact 93 Hollywood, starring Jerry Trimble.
Go check it out, y'all.
There's
Good movie.
Law 86 Hong Kong, also known as Righting Wrong.
I've seen Above the Law movie, and I think one of the fighters did their very first 540 kick. That's not a 360 kick, it's a 540 kick. A 540 tornado kick. That's bizarre coming from the 80s movie when this is what started.
Starring Cynthia Rothrock and Yuen Biao.
Shout out to her.
Above the Law 88 Hollywood, starring Steven Seagal. Also, each release might be a different edit, and even the dubbing may be different.
What do you think? Do you think he's dead yet? I'm pretty sure he's been given the sack.
Okay, that is weird.
He wasn't carrying his weight.
I usually prefer subtitles, but some of these movies have really funny dubs, such as Ninja in the Dragon's Den.
You listen to this? I'm gonna kill your ass! You son of a...
You ever notice that anytime you look at movies like that, are they voiced by the same guy, or is a different actor that is dubbing these characters? I think it might have been the same dude that is dubbing all of these characters in these movies back in the day. Wow.
Bitch!
If you're not watching it dubbed, well, here's what you're missing.
I'm the monkey god, here to make a monkey out of you, you ugly stinking skunk fucker!
What?
Now you can't even jerk off.
That's weird.
Now you can't even jerk off.
Pause,
During
bruh.
the VHS era, getting introduced to these films was a much different experience. The first one I rented from the video store was Enter the Dragon. It's not the best martial arts film, it's not even the best Bruce Lee film, but it served as the perfect gateway to the genre and got me fascinated just as it had done to the entire world back in the 70s. Until then, my knowledge of martial arts films was limited to Karate.
I kind of disagree with you when you said that it's not the best martial arts movie. Yes, it is. Enter the Dragon was one of Bruce Lee's last great projects before he passed away in 1973. It was a film that inspired many generations of martial arts actors and actresses that we know and love today. Many of them always said that Bruce Lee was their inspiration. And other future generations, others say that the Power Rangers actors and Jean-Claude Van Damme, Michael Jai White, Jackie Chan, Scott Adkins, all said the same thing. And listen, I understand it's your opinion and I respect that, but in my opinion, I disagree when you said that it's not the best movie. It kind of is, dude.
Kid, Ninja Turtles, and comedies in the 90s like Family Matters, Wayne's World 2, and Dumb and Dumber. I always enjoyed these parody scenes, but didn't understand the full scope of what they were spoofing. Also, the video games I was playing were full of references that I wasn't aware of.
Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
Mortal Kombat is sort of a retelling of Enter the Dragon with the big tournament, and the Dhalsim character from Street Fighter was clearly inspired by the guy with the stretching arms from Master of the Flying Guillotine. Also, all the sound effects in Street Fighter sound like they were directly lifted from those kind of movies.
I thought so.
You gotta love.
I was wondering why the Street Fighter sound effects sounded like that. Especially in Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the Super Nintendo version. That version sound exactly like the movies. With the punches and kicks and everything. You learn something new every day. Boy, am I invested like crazy.
Those sound effects. Looking back, Double Dragon, Final Fight, Streets of Rage, they all felt like old school martial arts movies. And likewise, the movies felt like video games to begin with. In Game of Death, Bruce Lee has to go up a series of stairs, which is just like ascending the levels or stages. And on each floor, he fights a different boss character. One of my favorites is Tower of Death, also known as Game of Death 2. This is part of the Bruceploitation genre, which could be a whole video in itself.
I hated this movie,
Anyway, the last 20 minutes is pure gold. The hero fights a guy outside a temple, then enters a secret door in the ground, which brings him into the bad guy's lair. He picks up some nunchucks and beats up a bunch of other guys. Then he goes down an elevator, which feels like a cutscene to the next stage. And this is where it gets really awesome. He comes into a lab where everybody is now wearing shiny silver uniforms. He takes them all out, knocking one of them into a pool of red acid, which apparently kills him. Once that stage is cleared, a sliding door opens, Star Trek style, and out comes a boss character dressed as Fred Flintstone. The hero finds a weapon upgrade, a steel pole, and halfway through the battle, he loses it. The boss picks up a crate, but he jump kicks through it.
You know what? To give the film's credit where it's due, the fights in this movie are really good, but the way they edit the Bruce Lee shots, oh god, it's what really took me out of the movie the most. Like, I remember buying a Bruce Lee DVD collection one day, and I still have it in my room. But for some odd reason, that movie did not work. I tried playing it a few times, but somehow it just broke on me all of a sudden. But it's what they did to this film that really pissed me off. It's how they keep using Bruce Lee's shots from other projects. And it did not blend well one bit with this film. They could have just made this into an original project instead of trying to do a Bruce exploitation. That's the only thing I didn't really like about this film, is when they did that. But other than that, man, the martial arts fight scenes are really good, but how they edit Bruce Lee and how they treated him is just dumb. I'm sorry.
The next level, he has to come through a hallway, but the floor is explosive to the touch. So he has to use a grappling hook to climb over. Then he fights another boss who uses a staff with a blade on both ends. And then at last, he comes to the final boss who's been sitting in a throne waiting the whole time. The fight moves from the floor up to the balcony and then back down to the floor again. Then the boss goes into phase 2, attacking with a staff, which eventually comes unsheathed as it's really
call it a crash out mode.
In the end, the boss is impaled and then kicked into a coffin for good measure. And that is everything that happens in just the final scene. So it almost seems this whole genre was like the invention of video games. And after video games reference the films reference the games. The two that come to mind, which make explicit references to the Street Fighter games, are Super Lady Cop and City Hunter. It's crazy.
Very that.
Different Street Fighter characters. What more could you want?
City Hunter did such a good job on representing Street Fighter so well that I almost laughed my butt off when Jackie Chan started acting like Chun-Li when he did that dance. Oh my god, too funny.
In the 90s, there was no musical artist that I think put martial arts back.
Oh yeah, Wu-Tang Clan definitely was responsible for a lot of martial arts
audio
flips.
Samples from old martial arts films, naming themselves after characters like Ghostface.
And they got a YouTube channel called Wu-Tang Collection. Go check them out. They got everything from English dub, Spanish dub, Japanese dub, everything.
And whether or not they had anything to do with that, their influence is undeniable. RZA said that he considers the tongue to be a sword, and that if you think you're the best lyricist, you better be using the Wu-Tang sword. It shows you can adapt the philosophy of martial arts into almost anything.
Do you think your Wu-Tang sword can defeat me?
The VHS set is where I first saw Drunken Wu-Tang, originally known as Taoism Drunkard. It's one of the craziest movies I've ever seen. I mean, just look. If you want a movie
I remember
that
seeing that years ago.
Numb, then go find it, and good luck. Then there's The Dragon Lives Again, in which the soul of Bruce Lee is in the afterlife and meets up with Dracula, James Bond, Popeye, Clint Eastwood, and The Godfather, I guess.
This is crazy.
I could talk about these movies for hours, but I think I covered some good ground for now. If you're big on these films, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you're new to them, I hope it piqued your interest. Consider it an invitation. So step into the dojo and enter the martial arts genre.
Hey man, shout out to Cinema Scar and Angry Video Game Nerd for this amazing video, bro. I really enjoyed watching this, watching your perspective on things that made these movies so iconic and a cult classic. And not only that, but it really has a lot of fans that really loves these movies to this day. Thanks to YouTube, we can all watch it for free. That and Tubi. You know what I'm saying? Tubi has all of the martial arts movies, and so does YouTube. But you have to keep searching until you find that perfect version. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, at the end of the day, martial arts movies and TV shows will always be my top choice to go, because I tried watching like other shows, but they just don't hit it like this. So, link to the original video will be down below, and I'm out, y'all.